Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with me, Tom Alvarez. My guest on today's episode is James Johnson, Chief Executive Officer of the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. Join me now as I go on the aisle for a conversation with James. Welcome, James. It's so great to see you. You know, it's kind of out of context, though. When I see you, it's usually in the lobby at the Hilbert Circle Theater.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to join you today.
And by the way, you know, that for me always bodes well when you see the face of the organization, you know, in the lobby talking to patrons. And in my experience covering the arts, those who head organizations sends a great message to your audiences that, you know, that the guy in charge is there to talk to them and answer any questions. And so I often wonder, what is that experience like for you? And I usually see you at the Pops concerts. And, you know, occasionally when I cover the classical music concerts, you know, there as well. But generally, you're always there.
Yeah, well, I like to say it's a shame I hate music. So, no, I really derive such satisfaction from, first of all, being at the concerts and hearing the orchestra. I take great pride in the artistic accomplishments of this ensemble, and so to be at the concerts to me is really the reward for all the work we do. We get to experience the great triumphs of our musicians and conductors and guest artists as they create art for our audience, and as well being with the audience. You know, I don't view myself as the guy in charge necessarily. I look to the conductor as the person who is leading the concert. But you know, if I can facilitate conversation about the orchestra, if I can encourage support for the ISO and what I do, then I'm, you know, very happy to be with our audience and learn from them. Of course, you hear complaints, but you often, more often, you'll hear praise for the orchestra and real appreciation for the experience that we're providing.
What are the complaints?
Usually about parking.
Really?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's the bane of the existence of everybody who runs the arts organizations in downtown Indy. You know,
I swear it's the world over.
Especially when there's a Pacers and Colts game. Right?
It's true. Exactly. It's just a bit of a challenge, but we're doing everything we can to make the experience a better one for our patrons. And honestly, I talk to colleagues around the country, and we all have the same concerns. Being in downtown metro areas, parking is a concern, safety and security, cleanliness of downtown. We're all doing what we can to make it better to the extent we have any control.
It's too bad we don't have better public transportation.
Well, you know, there is a rapid transit bus line on Washington Street, so
do people use it?
People do. I talk to folks all the time who use that. And,
really? Well, that makes sense.
Well, why not? And it's a great way to enjoy the evening without having to worry about driving home. And at the end of the day, or a lot of people will take Uber or Lyft as well. Yeah. That's becoming increasingly popular. So there's different ways to experience the orchestra besides having to get in your own car and drive down.
Well, you know, when this show drops, you know, we're not too far off, and you know, I try to keep these podcast interviews evergreen, if you will, but I do want to talk to you about other things, but. Since Yuletide is looming, let's go right to that. And even though we're evergreen, whenever people listen to this, if they discover this podcast up the road, Yuletide is an annual event.
Yeah.
So why don't we delve into Yuletide, which is one of my all-time favorite events to cover. You know, I think I have been to every single Yuletide since it began. And how long ago would that have been?
That would have been 39 years ago.
Wow. 39 years. And Jack Everly, when did he come into the picture?
He was here in the, I believe, the 90s. He began his run as the conductor and music director for Yuletide Celebration. Joel Levine from Oklahoma City was the first conductor, but Ty Johnson has been with us since the very beginning as the senior producer and one of the great creative minds behind this production. You know, Tom, there's nothing like it in North America, and we pride ourselves in Indianapolis on presenting the premier holiday production among orchestras around the country. Really, it takes its place alongside the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, in being just a beloved holiday tradition. And we invest in the production each year, so we never take it for granted. And every year there's something new. It always looks and sounds spectacular. I will tell you, I've been in the orchestra business for many, many years now, and I knew about Yuletide Celebration long before I came to Indianapolis. When I was in New York, working for the New York Pops Orchestra, we talked about Yuletide Celebration. And of course, when I was in Omaha before Indianapolis, there too, it was every orchestra was wondering, how do we do something like that? How do we create a production that attracts such a large audience, and at the same time builds loyalty among patrons for year after year? And really, there's nothing like it. As much as other orchestras have attempted, I've not seen any other orchestra that's even come close.
I'm surprised about why some haven't been able to do that. What is your unique set of circumstances that allows you to pull it off?
I think it's the investment in time, in resources, in creativity that makes it all possible. And it's no other orchestra is willing to invest as much as the Indianapolis Symphony.
Yeah, but look at the return. It's a huge part of your budget, isn't it?
It sure is. It's a significant. About a third of our ticket sales budget each year is from that month of December.
How much have you raised your ticket prices over the years?
Well,
How do you gauge that?
We gauge it by demand, certainly, and the audience has told us that, particularly for certain concerts on matinees during the weekend or Saturday nights, of course, there's real demand for those particular performances. But to your question, the investment that goes into this, the costumes alone are valued in the millions.
You mentioned having lived in New York, and I visited New York any number of times, to cover the arts and to review shows. I like to go there because that's like the pinnacle, right? And I like to think that what I've seen there and other places gives me something to measure local work against. And I concur with you that. And every year in my reviews, I try to somehow, without continually repeating myself, that, it's worth repeating. This is Broadway quality. And if you've not been to Broadway, trust me on this. This show will give you a taste of what it's like to go to a Broadway show. Trust me on this, folks. The quality, the talent on the stages, everything, the technical quality, it's first rate. There is nothing like it anywhere except, I think, Radio City Music Hall. I mean, I don't know that I'm not aware. I know that people do Christmas shows around the country.
Well, I'll tell you the one thing that we think makes it even more special than a Broadway show. Recall that when you go attend a Broadway show, the largest orchestra you're likely to find is 25 pieces.
Exactly.
Many times it's 7 or 8.
In touring shows, it's like 19, typically 15 to 19.
And here it's 60 musicians and more on the stage accompanying these incredible singers and dancers. So and that's the extra element that an orchestra
and
provides.
I imagine you have bookers and agents breathing down your neck every year trying to get their people to be considered to host that show.
Indeed. Well, this year we pursued Ashley Brown, who was the original Mary Poppins on Broadway, a really stellar entertainer.
She was here a couple years ago with your pops.
That's right. She's been in Indianapolis several times over the years.
She's been on a guest on this podcast. Yeah.
Ah, very good. Yeah. Ashley is a total delight as a person, but also captivating as a entertainer, wonderful singer, actor. She moves beautifully. I think that she's going to bring a wonderful element to this year's production.
In fact, I'm proud to say that I've had a number since I started doing the show. I mentioned to you before we started, like I'm nearing 100, and many of those guests have been Sandy Patty, for instance, Ann Hampton Calloway,
Right.
just to name a few people. Tony DeSere, no, he wasn't a Yuletide performer, but he's certainly been a performer.
That's right.
I've had a lot of folks on the show associated with ISO. You know, I'm proud to say I've had Kevin Lynn, and I tell people all the time there's nothing more rarefied than to have this concert master of the ISO right where you're sitting. He stood up and played his Stradivarius violin in my presence. I asked him to play a piece from Four Seasons. Who does that? I mean,
Not bad, was it?
I mean, it was just, and you know, I also had I had Maestro June Markle on here.
Yeah.
Sherry Hong, Austin Huntington, and you know, there's a list of other performers from the symphony that I would like to have on. I've approached them, and they've all, I guess the word's out. So you know, I have a special affinity for your musicians in your organization, and have for a very long time.
This is the ISO family effect, and you know, it's, of course, I'm biased, but I will say it's a superb orchestra, beautifully led by its artistic leaders, June Merkel, Jack Everly, and so on. But what makes it special is also the family aspect of this. They are all wonderful people, and they are devoted to this city, and they encourage each other to be better and really achieve excellence on the stage, but in a way that's not hypercritical. It's encouraging, and it's supportive and positive.
You know, I think it's your I think it's your secret weapon. The way you have, the way you showcase those people in your marketing. You know, the musicians, and made them personalities. You know, that draw people in, and of course then you've got you've got the pop series, the classical series, and then the Uncharted series. I've also had Steve Hackman on the show, and I have to tell you about recently. Recently, I attended his Beyonce versus Beethoven, and I commented on it in my my review that it was astounding to me to see how everybody is trying to develop a new audience, all the performing arts, you know, because people my age, you know, the baby boomer generation, we're not here for long, you know, the reality is. And so, you know, someone's got to fill those seats, and you know, you're all trying to find ways to do that, you know, to bring new people in, young people. And I look at what Steve Hackman has done, you know, single-handedly, and I saw a lot of mostly 30 to 30, 40, 30, mostly it seemed to me a lot of 30-ish people, 30-somethings, and it was the most diverse one, and I cover everything, so I can speak from authority, every venue in town. And occasionally I see it up at the Palladium. It depends on their series. Jazz is one of them. But typically, you know, we have pretty segregated audiences here. It's just a fact, white and black. Now Latinos are in the mix, thank God. We're seeing a city that mirrors, you know, this country. But back to that concert, it just warmed my heart to see such a diverse audience. all coexisting and enjoying this music together. And during the Beyonce part, people were up and dancing and cheering, and it was extraordinary. And then during the softer parts, everybody, you could hear a needle drop because they were listening to the Beethoven as well. And I wonder, Jason, where do you sit? Are those people coming back to the symphony that? To the classical and pops concerts?
Some are.
Are you able to track?
Yeah, we absolutely do, and it's I think some do come back for other things, and you'll notice that Steve Hackman, who is a creative genius, there's just no other way to describe him. When he does these mashups between Beethoven and Beyonce, he will point out when we're doing Beethoven, and he'll say, come back for this particular concert, this date, and hear this music played by the orchestra. And many do follow that direction.
He is an excellent teacher up on that podium.
Yeah.
And his whole sort of style and attitude, it's very easygoing, and he really breaks down sort of the, makes it less intimidating for people. And I'm sure you have help from that organization called Forte. Tell our audience about Forte.
Sure. Forte is our young professionals group, and it's frankly, it's for those who are in that under 40 age bracket. It's a great way to get to know the orchestra, but also to be with friends your own age and to listen to some great music of various types. They come to the Uncharted concerts, but also our film music, pops, classical. They were recently at the Vivaldi Four Seasons concert. We had a group from Forte who were having a special gathering there. So it's a great way to introduce the next generation.
Is that
to the
organization
orchestra.
itself growing?
It is, and I think there's over 100 members of Forte. They have their own leadership council, and they really are about promoting the value of the orchestra in the community and welcoming others of that age to participate.
And I've been to the receptions afterwards where Steve will come and do a meet and greet and talk with them.
Yeah.
People approach him, and he's just very casual and very approachable.
For sure. Steve is, I love talking about Steve in the context of Indianapolis because really
You guys discovered him.
He grew up here. He was the conductor that Time for Three brought in when they were first artists in residence 15 years or so ago.
And weren't they? He was classmates with some
That's
of those
right.
guys.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, he
was
at Curtis.
School? Yeah, Curtis. Uh-huh.
And here's this remarkable young talent, and over the years began to put these concerts, these mashups together. Almost all of them have been premiered in Indianapolis, and then they go out all over the world.
He always credits Jack when he's up on the podium,
yeah.
and the ISO for getting him his start.
It's really the freedom to be creative and to try new things, and some things work better than others. We are bringing back the Resurrection mixtape this spring, and that is a fusion of Mahler's Resurrection Symphony and then the music of Tupac and Biggie.
Yeah.
And I think we've done it 2 or 3 times already, and we're bringing it back again. It's so popular. And I think it's one of the most moving musical experiences I can recall in my life. It is very poignant, actually, bringing those two rivals together musically, and then the profound depth of the Resurrection Symphony by Mahler combined into an evening.
I experienced something similar during the recent Beyonce Beethoven, the second movement paired with Halo. I mean, it took my breath away.
Yeah. Yeah, and Steve is really able to touch a nerve because, the popular music like that, it is so visceral, and it really does, it does, reach right down inside you, and it just generates memories.
I always, during those transitions, and I don't know how, I don't question anymore, but it's just like, it's brilliance that he can, it's seamless. They just go from one to the next, and It's just remarkable.
It's an art.
Yeah.
It's truly, and
And
it's a lot of work. I will say, Steve.
And he's just getting started. I see that his first film score is going to be on Netflix. Do you know anything much about it?
No, don't know much about that project, but I'm not surprised. He's based in Los Angeles now and is talking with all the entertainment folks. And when he needs permission to do Bohemian Rhapsody, he goes to Queen.
I saw something recently that I met his parents at one of those meet and greets. Lovely people. They drove down from Chicago, and it occurred to me to ask them. I said, "So, has Steve ever played his hometown?" He says, "No, and we're working on that." And I see that it's in his credits. So he finally made it to
I guess
Chicago.
he must have made it to Chicago
Yeah,
at last.
I said, "Well, I can't imagine it's not going to be long before they hear of you." But I mean, his star continues to rise.
It does.
That's just one of the Yuletide, Steve Hackman. I don't think that people realize just how progressive you guys are.
We were the other element that we've not discussed, but I also think is very special here is the film scores played with the motion picture. And this orchestra was the first orchestra in the world to do all 8 Harry Potter motion pictures with live accompaniment. And in fact, we're going back to the beginning. We're playing Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone in 2026. And so
I see orchestras all over the country are copying what you guys have done.
Yeah, it's we were among the first, and
another way to get new audiences, right? Is it working? Is that working?
It absolutely does, and I think it brings it's in some ways almost a family experience, a family concert, because you see so many parents who are bringing their children to these films that meant so much to them when they were young.
Let me ask you this: Do you have any way of knowing that? Is it a balance, or do people spend more time listening to the music and watching the musicians, or concentrating on the film? What do you know?
I'm told that they come for the movie and they end up watching the orchestra or the conductor, because of course, and Jack Everly does most of these.
And if they could see it, or if they have opera glass, they could see the click.
It's
track.
Yeah, exactly. So just the mystery of how this all comes together.
Well, they learn how a film is scored.
That's right. Yeah, you watch the Jack is sometimes on a click track. Other times he's watching the
Explain
streamers.
that for our listeners who may not be familiar with what we're talking about.
Right.
The process.
Well, the click track is playing the rhythm. It's usually very steady, the steady rhythm that the orchestra needs to be on in order to be precisely timed to the film. There's also a visual element that the conductor will use when it's a little more of a freer.
You can see it on a monitor, too.
That's right. There's right on the monitor, and it's the banners and streamers.
And if you're in a recording studio in Hollywood, they're looking at screens.
That's exactly
they're
right.
looking at the film.
It's precisely timed down to the millisecond nowadays. Of course, it was much looser and freer. Whenever we do The Wizard of Oz, you realize how difficult it is to recreate that experience, because they cut the music wherever they felt like, and including in the middle of a measure. So
what's the rehearsal? What is the rehearsal process like?
It's several rehearsals, 2 or 3 usually for a film, and the key is not so much that the musicians have to synchronize with the film. They just have to follow the conductor, but the conductor has to prepare and be.
He has to know that score backwards and forwards,
like the back of his hand. And Jack, I've had conversations with him over the years. What's the hardest? And I think the John Williams scores, of course, are so dense and difficult and challenging. The episode 6 of the Star Wars, and I'm going to botch that one, but is the most difficult because it's nonstop music for 2 hours, and there's almost no rest, and so the conductor by the end is completely worn out. The musicians themselves too. It's almost like playing a Wagner opera. There's no stopping. That's difficult. But also the other one is when he does musicals. Mary Poppins, when we did that one a couple of years back, synchronizing the voices with a live orchestra is remarkable that they're able to put that together. I'm just marvel at it. That Julie Andrews singing is precisely timed with our orchestra. It's miraculous almost that they're able to pull that off.
Tell me about your working relationship with Gianmarco. And by the way, when he was on this podcast, I think I mentioned to you one of our lobby conversations that, boy, he is one of the best ambassadors in this that you could chosen to promote the ISO. Well, he really gets at what a community wants to hear.
He's I was having a conversation yesterday about Gianmarco. He is a musician's conductor. That's first and foremost, is that the musicians truly are energized, and they feel, and they're allowed to be creative as musicians when he's conducting, and he brings such incredible musical ideas to them, and the interpretations are always spot on. Talk about meticulous preparation. Mostly he conducts from memory. If you've watched him conduct, and very seldom does he use a score. It's because he's just inhabits the music, and he knows it so well that he doesn't need the printed page to guide him. And that sort of, sometimes can be a parlor trick for conductors to not use a score and prove how brilliant they are, that they've memorized the music. In his case, it's genuine. He really does understand the music in a unique way. So that's got to be first in terms of his ability as a musical leader. And I think our audiences are beginning to pick up on that as they watch him and marvel at the performances that he is able to lead with our musicians. But as someone who's been conducting this orchestra yearly since the early 2000s, he's no stranger. He's no stranger. He knows the community very well, and he wants nothing more than that this orchestra should succeed in Indianapolis.
Well, you talked about his plans, to return ISO to its former glory when they toured and they recorded under Raymond Lepard, and the musicians are supercharged about that as well. They really want to go out there and put Indianapolis on the map. In terms of
we're starting that process by beginning to record. Actually, we're making video recordings of some of our performances.
Really?
And they are going to be living on our YouTube page. And,
no kidding.
That's available for anyone to watch.
Well, I often wonder what was holding you back from that. And I thought, does it have to do with rights? Does it have to do with licensing? What does it have to do with? I mean, so you're going to be able to share the product.
That's right. And
worldwide.
Exactly. We'll choose standard repertoire pieces that don't necessarily are not in copyright for now, and that are readily available to show on video. And I think we're planning to release several of those over this course of this season. And it's a beginning for the orchestra under Gianmarco to make, to share the artistry that's going on in these concerts.
This is kind of off topic, but I think you'll identify with during COVID, the cabaret, of course, and they showcase a lot of Broadway people. They've developed a great brand and reputation, but during COVID, they started putting stuff on YouTube. They developed a worldwide audience.
That's right.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, no, through video you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we, I think in that way, because in some ways the traditional recording industry is gone.
Exactly. Well, the internet, even my business, people are listening to me in little places in Africa. I can look at the analytics and see maps the internet.
Yeah.
It's made it possible for so many people to bypass the system or whatever.
That's right.
To get exposure.
And do you have a CD player even in your car? Probably not.
Well, at my age, I lived the continuum of technology, and I just know that anything's possible.
That's right.
Who could have ever imagined that I could be sitting here with you, and that people could hear it. When it drops, they'll be able to hear it on their phone when
Exactly.
they're like wherever.
It's miraculous, and so you have to you have to be ubiquitous. You have to be on YouTube that someone can be searching for performance and find it.
As the CEO and president, managing the business. So I take it that you're always looking for ways to embrace technology, right?
Indeed, we were one of the first orchestras that put in a video system in the Hilbert Circle Theater, which has been there about 10 years or so. And our goal is to reactivate it with June Merkel now as music director, and put product out, put those videos out so people can experience the orchestra who aren't necessarily even in Indianapolis, but want to hear wonderful performance.
What stopped folks from doing that previously?
Well, I think it's the we had done some things during the pandemic and we had experimented with webcasts and things in the late 20-teens. I think what we're learning is that people don't necessarily tune in at a particular time or a particular date. They want music to be available whenever.
It's always about developing those audiences, the young people. They don't watch TV. They're on the internet or they're on their phones.
And they're on no particular schedule, are they?
Yeah.
They just whenever.
Do you utilize social media, TikTok? Are you doing TikTok videos?
Well, I don't. Yeah, we have some, but we're embracing more and more of it, I would say, and particularly to the extent we can get our musicians energized around
there
that.
There you go. Those musicians could do little 30-second videos, perform in their own home or wherever they are. I could see it. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I have to say, we hope that sort of exposure and bringing people together around music also will inspire folks to try us in the theater too. Because I think there's no replicating the live experience.
Exactly.
And as good a recording as you can make, it's just not the same as being there live.
I really like the way though you have featured that your musicians are willing to go out there and relate to younger people and to talk about their lives and just show that we're not stuffy. We're regular folks.
They are. They're quite human.
We like to run. We like to go to this restaurant or that restaurant because the folks that I had on, especially Kevin and Austin. Austin talked about being a marathon runner.
Yeah.
And Kevin talked about all kinds of stuff.
They're completely relatable, and the remarkable thing about the ISO now is we have so many young musicians now in the orchestra.
I started seeing there was a matriculation happening, and I saw it was after COVID, frankly, when I began to see there were people who retired. It seemed like a bunch of them retired at the same time. I don't know, and then I started seeing younger faces and more younger faces, and before I knew it, most of the old timers were gone. Not all. I talked to June about that, and he says, I love that, though, that there's still some old-timers around, because the younger people, they learn the traditions of the ISO and the two generations. So institutional memory, there's a transfer.
There is, and it's, we have musicians who, Robert Goodlett, our wonderful associate principal bass player, has been with us more than 50 years.
Wow.
He brings amazing legacy and tradition, and June and I were having a conversation about what sort of sound do you want to evoke from this orchestra? What is it that you're looking for? And part of that is tied to the past in some ways, and also tied to the sound of our hall. And you can't just put a bunch of musicians on stage who don't know each other and have no relationships to each other and expect them to make a brilliant sound. The Vienna Philharmonic sound, which is recognized worldwide, is built on hundreds of years of tradition and legacy that's preserved generation after generation. And we hope to do something similar as we bring the newer musicians into the orchestra, also honoring what's come before.
Mm-hmm. And this is going to drop after the fact, but this weekend this coming weekend, you'll be up at the Palladium, will you not? The ISO.
We just finished our residencies. We did Vivaldi's Four Seasons up there.
Oh, you have already done that.
But we're going back for Messiah. We do Messiah
Okay.
every year at the Palladium,
Okay.
and it's what a beautiful
I know
venue.
at one time there was a conscious effort to do a footprint in Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
You're still working on that?
We're doing a couple of concerts a year now at the
Yeah.
Palladium, and the Vivaldi Four Seasons. We did Beethoven's Ninth Symphony last year, and we're looking at what we might do there in the future as well.
And again, I'm going to ask you this: are you able to track how many folks from Carmel? Now there was that Carmel versus Greenwood thing. Carmel versus Indianapolis. Is that thing dissipated?
I think we just play the music and look for the audience. I really can't comment on a rivalry, which I don't know much about.
Well, no, there was at one time, and it was kind of, and it was often discussed, and then it was sort of anecdotal. Okay?
I see.
It wasn't really. No one kept data or anything, but it was just sort of like generalization. Well, I don't go to Indianapolis; they have too much crime. You can't park.
Yes, sure.
That kind of thing. Or there's snobs up there. I don't. That's nouveau riche. Blah blah blah. It was just the silliness. That one. Don't support them because then you're taking away support from us.
I think there's plenty for all, and wherever there's an audience for music, we should be playing.
Yeah, well, that goes for theater. That goes for everything. And
That's
I
right.
think I see from where I sit that old thing about competition. I often hear from people from outsiders that they marvel that there's that competitive spirits at the arts here that there are. There's a lot of you guys do collaborations now with the Indianapolis Ballet.
Yeah, we love the collaborative spirit.
Oh my gosh,
that's a pillar of our strategic plan is to be collaborative in all we do.
Let's talk about the upcoming one. This is the third one, right?
Well, yeah. This year we're expanding our collaboration, so we're going to be. Indianapolis Ballet has moved to Clues Hall for many of their productions, including the Nutcracker this December, and the orchestra will be providing live accompaniment for the Nutcracker. Yes, it's great.
Wow, that's new, isn't it?
It is news. And then, yes, we'll be doing Tchaikovsky's Sleeping Beauty in March at Clues Memorial Hall with Indianapolis Ballet. And I challenge anyone who knows something about ballet to compare this production to almost anything they're going to see. It's beautifully
I ran a
done.
ballet company, and I know that it is like world class.
Yeah,
world class.
No
one has to prove anything to anybody. The last two remind me.
we did Romeo and Juliet and
yes,
Swan Lake,
yes.
and now Sleeping
world
Beauty.
Class.
Yeah,
world
absolutely.
Class. And the people, anecdotally, once again, the audience was so diverse.
Mm-hmm.
I could just tell, because I really study audiences when I'm out there over the years. I can tell when someone is new to an event.
Mm-hmm.
And don't ask me how, but I just have an awareness because you see people, you can just tell that it's a new experience.
Yeah.
Because I try to listen in and hear comments in the lobby and all, and it's very exciting.
That's intentional. The prices are kept intentionally low and affordable, and we do a great deal of outreach to educational groups and others throughout the community to invite them to attend. And it really is providing an experience you cannot get anywhere else with a fully professional ballet company, a live symphony orchestra, and working together in a beautiful hall, beautiful space. So we've really enjoyed this collaboration, and more to come.
Another favorite topic of mine, and I give ISO high marks for its conscious effort to diversify its audiences, and I'm talking racially, culturally, and you put your money where your mouth is in your association with the Metropolitan Youth Organization.
Yeah.
And your programming. And, you go beyond Black History Month, and you make conscious efforts to develop new talent, through that program.
Yeah.
And then also your recent edition of, I'm blanking on his name. I interviewed him on this show, Lopez.
Yes, Enrico Lopez Yanez.
Enrico, For those who don't know who he is dual citizen, American and Mexican, and his father was what, a pianist or
tenor.
A tenor.
And in fact, we're going to be having his father and two others as
That's
the three
right.
Mexican tenors in January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, and I saw it reflected in the Beyonce concert that, people are finally understanding that you can go to Hilbert and you'll be welcomed.
Yeah.
I even noticed the way you train your staff, It used to be that you could tell when people didn't feel welcome just the minute they walk in the door, but I see that there's really an effort made to. It's not disingenuous either. It's not just about getting their money. It's about you're really trying to create community.
We use that word welcoming or making our guests feel welcome. We use that a lot throughout our organization, and everyone should feel welcome, regardless of their background.
I notice that even every time I'm at the box office, the customer service is excellent.
Thank you.
No, first rate, truly, because that is, for me, is a barometer of the organization and its mentality and its attitude about customer service.
Which we want to remove every barrier to attending a concert, and including as we look at the theater itself, how can we transform it and make it more accessible to those with physical challenges. And certainly if there's any hesitancy because you feel like you might not belong, we want to take that away as well. And so, you mentioned the Metropolitan Youth Orchestra. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary this season. I don't know if you've had Crystal Ford on, but I think you ought to bring her. Her story is truly inspirational.
Yeah, she's on my list.
Okay.
Believe me, she's on my list.
She's one of the original members of the orchestra, MYO, 30 years ago, and she returned at Betty Perry's invitation to become the director.
Betty Perry, that's a name that really, she was ahead of her time.
So the MYO is celebrating its 30th anniversary. We have 240 kids participating in the program this year, which is frankly more than we can accommodate, but we make room.
Frankly, I yearn to see more black and brown faces, playing. But I also know that it's not an easy thing. They haven't matriculated through music schools.
Right.
Haven't gone through whatever to get to a point where their numbers will increase. It's just the law of averages. But I do see more and more black faces in other markets, larger in New York City.
Yeah.
But it's going to take some time.
It does. It takes, as you know, as being, if you wish to become a professional musician, at least in the classical world, it's something you typically start if you're a string player when you're 3 and 4
with ballet.
years.
Same with ballet.
That's right.
Misty Copeland just retired, but I see more and more. I see more and more black and brown faces going to dance schools. So it's a matter of the training and then the experience.
I think it's about seeing yourself on the stage. I think if you can see people who are perhaps you can look up to.
And the same
stage.
with opera too.
Yep.
All of these performing arts that have always, for many people, have felt like, that's for others, that's not for us. We don't see ourselves up there, and that, thank God, that's changing.
Yes, and you have to be proactive as an organization. So we have a partnership with the Sphinx organization. In fact, I know this isn't timely necessarily for when this podcast drops, but we are doing a concert at Madam Walker Legacy Center tomorrow evening, and that's become an annual residency for the orchestra.
Well, for future reference, people can keep an eye on Sphinx. Tell them more.
That's right.
Talk more about that.
Well, it's among the many free experiences we offer. All those concerts are incredibly affordable. And we do at Madam Walker. We do them in other community centers around Indianapolis, as well as a an annual concert at Hilbert Circle Theater. And that partnership now is going on, I think, 5 years with the Sphinx organization. That's a national organization which is supporting diversity in classical music. And we always engage one of their artists to help program a series. So it's not just a artist of color, but music by composers of color, and for an audience that's, we hope, will be incredibly diverse, reflecting our community's diversity.
Okay, it's now time of the show for me to find out who's James Johnson, the person. I always like to, give my listeners a sort of look at the person, running the show. And tell me a bit about yourself. You have a family, I know.
Yes, indeed. I don't come from a family of musicians. There's really no history of being in the arts in my family. We were raised in the church, and so we learned to sing at a very young age. And I became a bass player as a young student, and never very accomplished.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but I played through college, and I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and attended a small liberal arts school there. But I really developed a passion for the work that goes behind the music, and went from a Pacific Lutheran University in Tacoma to I worked at a little theater in Tacoma, Washington, just out of school.
Synod Lutheran?
It's ELC.
Oh, okay. All right.
ELCA, I guess. From there, I went to Southern Methodist University and got my degree in business and arts administration, 2 degrees, and went to New York and decided, had planned to stay for 6 months and ended up staying about 25 years. So,
well, and of course, your experience at New York Philharmonic, I mean, I think we've talked a couple times about all of the people that you met there, big names, big stars, just living in New York City all those years.
Yeah, it was the New York Pops Orchestra. I want to make sure we get that correction.
Yeah.
And it was the experience of a lifetime. I worked with so many wonderful artists over the years, starting with Martha Graham, where I delved into dance for about 6 years, and met David Hochoy, the past artistic director of Dance Kaleidoscope. He and I were friends many, many years ago before he moved to Indianapolis, and we reconnected when I came here in 2018.
So I asked about your family. You have your own family.
That's
Talk
right.
About them.
Well, my wife is a former dancer. I met her at Martha Graham when she was a student, Jennifer Katz. And Jennifer and I met when she was a student at Martha Graham.
She's always at your side at the lobby.
She's
always
wonderful,
smiling and so patient when you have to work the room.
She is my better half.
She still looks like a dancer. Once a dancer, always a dancer.
Absolutely.
The way she carries herself.
She does. And we have 2 daughters. They're 25 and 21 now. And
really?
Yeah, they're quite moving along. My older daughter, both got the bug. My older daughter went to school for musical theater and parlayed that into a career as a social media influencer and content creator in Los Angeles.
Okay.
She's doing very well there. And
so that theater background can take you all kinds of places.
Indeed.
I studied theater and made my way into TV, but all that gave me gave me a bit of more creativity, more of a creative kind of outlook.
Sure. And I think also you learn to be a self-starter because you have to create your own opportunities.
A lot of transferable skills.
She was in school in New York and during the pandemic and realized that their opportunities were drying up for live performance, so she began making her own videos.
Speaking of live performance, I want to share with you. Someone was I can't remember who I was talking to someone. Oh, I know. Someone was on my podcast recently. Michael Lamon, who is a Tony-winning Broadway producer, and we talked about how the landscape is changing with A&I and how that threatens a lot of artists. What does the future hold? And a lot of negative stuff is coming out of that. But he says, you know what? It could benefit live performance because if you think about it, you cannot replicate a symphony performance via AI.
Not in our lifetime, you can.
No, nor theater, nor
Yeah.
opera, nor any of the performing arts.
That's right.
And so you can claim, hey, folks, if you can't tell what's real and what's not, come to the show.
Right. Well, we're the last refuge, aren't we, from in the world that is so chaotic and so driven by machines. That this is a place where you can unplug and unwind.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's a virtue for some people, or they'll discover that as they grow older.
And then let's talk about the times, without getting into all the particulars or any controversy at all. But I would just like to say this is a troubling time that we're all in. And the arts right now serve a purpose that is so immediate. And what I'm seeing is that it's the only refuge we have, the arts and sports, so that we can have a safe space and just escape and just take in just positivity. And, that's become my mantra. Is for any other reason, support the arts if you just want to get away from all the noise. Would you agree?
I agree. And, we as the ISO, we went through a planning process, and I wasn't particularly happy with our mission statement from of old, and I asked our team to think about a new one, which is the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra inspires and unites our community through our music, and that's it. Doesn't necessarily speak to our excellence. It doesn't necessarily speak to specific programs. But if we can inspire audiences, if we can bring them together around art, then I think we've accomplished what we set out to do.
People need hope desperately.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And we, music obviously elicits unlimited number of emotions, but at the end of the day, yes, it should provide inspiration.
What do you think about when you're listening to a beautiful classical piece or any music?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about? What does it do for you?
It's and I listen to a lot of music. I will say I'm there, as we just started the conversation, almost every night, and it transports me. I'm just, sometimes I'm listening for how the orchestra's playing, but other times I'm just lost in the music, and that's the best time.
Is it okay? But I'm asking, what are you saying? Is it filmic for you? Does it transport you to travels that you've had, or some experience, or like the soundtrack of my life?
Mm-hmm.
When I hear certain music, I think of my college years, my high school years growing up, that kind of thing.
I'm not necessarily a visual person, being a musician, and that's so I don't necessarily see a picture. I just, but I feel an emotion. It can be thrilling. It can be elicit, sadness or longing. Sometimes, yes, nostalgia, particularly if it's music that I grew up with or a piece I once played, and I'm remembering now what it was like to delve into that piece of music, and it's and I'm as you can imagine, I'm agnostic about music. I appreciate all of it, I really do, and I think classical music is at the heart of what we do. But this is the most versatile orchestra in the country, and so we give credence to all of it.
I always say that, I think I'm usually in a good mood, but wouldn't you be if you were immersed in art all the time? And I am. I'm always in a concert hall or a theater, and how can I not stay positive? And that's the secret of, I think, what performing arts can bring into your life, the quality of your life.
It is, but I worry that we're raising a generation that is so addicted to their devices they can't put them away. I hope people will continue to come to concerts.
Put content on there, your symphony.
Well, that's fine too. Exactly. We'd love for them to hear it.
At least they'll maybe their interest will be piqued. Well, I need to go check these folks out.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be on both sides of the argument. And
right.
You have to provide these transformative live experiences, but you also have got to be where people are consuming information.
Yeah. Well, I've done a bit of. I have a small performing arts company, as you know, the Magic Third Cabaret. So I have just experience. At one time, I ran a community theater and a ballet company for a minute. So I know a bit about what you do, but I really admire what you've done with the ISO 2 on the financial end. How that's, I mean, from going through COVID and, taking over the ISO and putting it in the financial position it is now, that's really admirable. You've really, of course, I know that it takes a lot of people to support you, a board and trustees and all that.
I can't claim sole credit for the success of the orchestra from a financial perspective. It really goes back to those donors and patrons, our board of directors who provide really careful oversight of our resources. It absolutely could not happen without this team of individuals who come together around providing the resources for the orchestra to be sustainable, and that's what we're aiming to be. We're celebrating our centennial in 2030.
Wow! And big plans.
We're lots of things are in the works, and but it's not just about celebrating that year, though. It's about continuing into the next century.
Mm-hmm. That's extraordinary. I didn't know that was coming up right around the corner, right?
We're 95 years young this year, and excited about what the future will bring.
Okay, well, I can't wait to hear what those plans are. Hope you keep me posted. And in the meantime, thank you again for sharing your time today. And anything you want to say that I haven't asked you?
Well, Tom, thank you for what you do for the arts in Indianapolis and central Indiana, and thank you for bringing this message to listeners all over. We need people like you, and you're irreplaceable and unique in our community, and I want to thank you for your advocacy for all that we do.
I deeply appreciate that. Well, listen, I'll see you on the aisle.
Save the aisle seat for me.
Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official newsletter for 15 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community. Thank you for joining me on the aisle. Please subscribe to my podcast, and if you want to hear previous episodes, find them on the All Indiana Podcast Network, or listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. This is Tom Alvarez.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.